Hello, everyone, and welcome. And a special welcome, of course, to those joining us tonight by live stream. You know, this is the 16th time that I presented a technology update at TLCC. And just as TLCC has grown from what was essentially, at the beginning, a Tessitura user group meeting to what then seemed like a kind of a Tessitura tech conference to what is now this amazing international gathering of arts and cultural professionals, so too has our software grown. Each year, our technical offerings have widened, grown, to encompass more of what you've told us you need to run your organizations. So I'm very proud to be here. And it's always my greatest pleasure to be able to tell you what we're working on now, what's coming soon, and then what's coming next. So what we want to do today is sort of bring you all up to date on the broad outlines of our current and future technology initiatives, both in the business-facing and platform applications, and in our consumer-facing web applications. Broadly, we'll cover these areas today. I'll talk about what's in version 14, our new business intelligence initiative, a big technology announcement, and then Kristin will cover the TN Express Web evolution and how TN Mobile Plus fits into everything. So let's dive right in. Right now, we're in the middle of version 14, which will be out by the end of this year. 3 big areas we're working on in version 14. But by far, the biggest of those features is resource scheduling. This is a game changer for Tessitura, and I'd like to take you on a small tour of it here. We think this will have a big impact on your businesses. It's something we've been talking about and working on for about 2 years now. And like all of our new initiatives, when we first started this, we went first to talk to you and ask our staff about what was actually needed. Like always, you responded with loads of good ideas, and we've coalesced those into what I'm going to show you tonight. Now, our initial design goal was to accommodate both inbound and outbound school groups. But as we've been building this, we realized there's so much more that you can do with resource scheduling. So what is resource scheduling? Let's just spin out a scenario here. You've got, say, a school group of 30 second and third graders coming to your venue. You've already issued group tickets for a performance or for admission, but there's a few other things that need to be scheduled as well. You need a parking spot for the bus all day long. You need a lunchroom for 30 students from 11:30 to 12. I need a classroom and a teacher and instructional materials for a workshop from 1:30 to 2:15. Now there's some complications. The bus parking spot, that obviously can't be shared. The lunchroom can be shared as long as you don't put more than 100 students in it at any one time. Now the classroom, it can't be shared, and it has to accommodate at least 30 students, obviously. Now the teacher has to be qualified to teach early elementary workshops and also have a current first aid certification. And oh, by the way, we don't actually know who the teacher's going to be yet, so we need to leave that slot unfilled. Now, all of those things can be done with our new resource scheduling functionality. Let's take a look at how this booking will look in Tessitura. So here's the booking, and you can see all of the resources assigned here, including TBD for the teacher. A couple of things I want to point out first. First, this is a web page. We had a technical goal, which was to build all of resource scheduling as a web application, able to be used either inside the Tessitura Windows client or in Tessitura On The Go, our browser-based mobile client. I'll tell you a little bit later about why that's really important. Second, what I'm going to show you here has several more rounds of design work to go through, so it may not look exactly like this, but all of the functionality is here. So let's look at just a few pieces of resource scheduling. We start by defining resources. Resources can be rooms or items or workers or volunteers, basically people, places, and things. Here we're defining the classroom resource we used earlier. Certain types of resources can have capacities or counts, and resources, you can decide whether a resource can be shared across bookings or not. Sharing a resource, by the way, was one of the ideas that you brought to us. Here's a week view of that same classroom resource. You can see here that it's scheduled 2 times on Monday. Those are the purple blocks. You also have the ability to mark a resource as busy, sort of take it out of contention for booking. So that's the green slot on Thursday there where the classroom is actually being painted. Now, setting up a constituent as a resource is done in the constituent record itself. And what's interesting here is that a single constituent can actually be multiple resources. So here we have Don Youngberg's record. You've heard of him, I know. Well, at the consortium organization I'm working on here, Don is both a docent for the museum and he's a teacher for music workshops. Constituents as resources can also have qualifications, which makes it easier to keep track of things like those certifications or skills I mentioned earlier. And yes, Tessitura nerds, we have a new tab. The new Worker Profile tab contains everything to do with this constituent in a capacity sort of inward-facing, as an employee or a volunteer at your organization. So, a booking is a collection of resource assignments, and it lives in the context of a ticket order. So here, we see the same booking open from within the orders window. Let's say it's now time to fill in the actual teacher that's going to fill in the TBD slot. So I edit that particular assignment, and up pops the Assign Resources window, showing me all of the resources of the requested type. Luckily, Don has an early elementary qualification, and I guess, well, luckily for all of us, he has the required first aid qualification as well. And he's available at the time that we need him. So let's select Don. Both of these features, by the way, the TBD holding slot and worker qualifications, are things that came directly out of a roadmap session here at TLCC previously. So those are really, really important to us, and thanks to all of you who joined in them. And now our booking's complete with the assigned teacher filled in. So here's where it gets fun and interesting, because your workers, your volunteers, can now log into Tessitura on the go and see their own schedule. They can view the bookings they're assigned to. They can add and edit the busy and available times. So when Don needs to know his schedule, he can see it right here. Or if he needs to adjust the hours he's available to work, he can do it here as well. Now the gray blocks are times that Don's available to work, and you can see that little recurring symbol, which means they're recurring schedules. The purple block, that's the workshop we just assigned him to. And the green blocks, well again, they're times when Don's busy, he can't work. So you can see we actually give Don one vacation day after each TLCC. So that's a preview of resource scheduling in version 14. I've only shown you a little bit of the functionality here, and I hope you're already thinking of ways you can use this in your organizations. Now, the second big part of version 14 is a complete rewrite of all of our payment processing code. We did this to make it more maintainable, more securable, more testable, and easier to accommodate all the new hardware devices that we need to attach to. And part of this functionality is a brand new payment window shown here, which was redesigned to incorporate a lot of the things that we learned as we were building QuickSale. And the third big area in version 14 is something we call REST API parity. And I know that sounds like a lot of jargon, but it's really quite important. Remember, our API, or Application Programming Interface, is really just a standardized way of interacting with Tessitura data. Kristin explained it best at a session a couple of years ago. She called it a comfy buffer that lets you safely extend the power of Tessitura into other applications, websites, and business areas. And achieving this parity means that our new API now encompasses everything that our SOAP API could do, plus much more. So if you're starting a new website or a new application, you can base all of your work off this new technology. And perhaps even more importantly, all of our software is powered by this API. Tessitura On the Go, Turbo, TNU, TNMP, the Tessitura application itself, all built on the foundation of this one application programming interface. So that's Tessitura version 14. Like always, the new release also includes lots of user enhancements, plus a couple of other smaller features like easier to use error logging and another feature we call contact permissions, which grew out of the Data Protection Act in the UK. Again, look for version 14 at the end of this year. Now, another piece of really important development work is underway this year as well. John Jakovich has joined us to lead a team devoted to looking at all aspects of business intelligence for Tessitura. We've had two items on our roadmap, end-user reporting and lists and outputs, they've been on a roadmap for some time. And T-stats and dashboards, they were ready for a new look as well. When we put all this together, we thought, as a group, they were important enough for us to spin up a project devoted specifically to business intelligence. Now, John will talk a lot more about this at a session on Thursday morning. And I don't want to steal I don't want to steal much anyway of his thunder. But I want to give you a quick overview of what we're trying to accomplish here. Our main objective is an overall look at all of the ways to get data out of the system. Of course, we've always had full-featured reporting, lists, extractions, outputs. We came out with T-stats as an option in 2009, and we eventually made that part of the core application. And I know that many of you out there are passionate data slicers and dicers. We also introduced dashboards to make it easy to view and display important strategic information. Well, we've learned a lot since then, and technology has changed as well. Broadly, business intelligence in Tessitura encompasses three main areas: lists, outputs, and reports, that's the tactical side; analytics, which is now mainly T-stats; and dashboards, that important strategic component. We're going to be building new functionality into all of those areas. And one of the things we're going to be doing is incorporating some new technology into the Tessitura platform. We've licensed software from one of the world's leading BI tool providers, and we'll be building that into the application over the next months. Let me give you a quick peek at some of the things these tools will allow you to do. So here's a dashboard. Here's a dashboard we built using these new tools. And you can see it's mainly about ticketing information. And you can see it's really just a collection of widgets or reports, very similar to the way our dashboards work now. One thing that's not similar to the way our dashboards work now is this technology is able to be rendered in any browser on any device. There's some pretty amazing capabilities here, and I can't begin to show you all of them, but I'd like to show you just a few. So one really cool thing is that all the widgets on a dashboard can be linked together if you want. So I hover over the Lion King bar and the chart widget. I see the values that the bar represents. Now, focus on any of the other figures on the dashboard, like that 2.93 million ticket count up there at the top. And watch what happens when I actually select the Lion King bar. Every linked widget on the dashboard sort of instantly recalculates to display only the data that I've selected. This is really, really powerful technology. Here's another interesting thing. See this widget over here? Look familiar? It should, because it's a pivot table. It's basically T-stats. So here we have a dashboard where one component is like a T-stats report. And I can drill into any cell of that pivot table, just like I drilled into the single bar in the bar chart. And just as you can with T-stats now, you can add dimensions and values to your grid at will. Actually, you can do even more than you can with T-stats now. Because unlike in T-stats, where we give you a long list of predefined values and dimensions, with this technology, you can define your own values on the fly. If you want to create formulas, sums, minimums, maximums, averages, you can create them and drop them right into your pivot table. And remember that because it's just part of this dashboard, it can be linked to other widgets and also displayed on any device. You'll be able to have folders of dashboards or reports that you can create yourself or share with or to other members of your organization. And we'll be able to provide some really interesting data visualizations, like this polar chart here. John and company are dreaming up some really interesting test cases, and I think you might see some more of them on Thursday morning. So let's talk a little bit about data discovery. Remember when I selected the Lion King here and I filtered my entire dashboard? Let's say that I want to know more about the makeup of the Lion King sales that one bar represents. This is where we start really drilling into the data. So let's enlarge that single widget and select the Lion King again. Notice the drill option on the menu. Let's say I'm curious about how sales to Lion King break down by mode of sale. I simply choose mode of sale from the list of data elements. Voila! A chart of Lion King sales broken down by mode of sale. It's pretty cool, isn't it? So internet buyers, they're our largest group here. Let's say I want to know if any of those internet buyers to Lion King also happen to be, say, contributors. So let's choose drill again, and this time we'll select fund to see what they might have given to. Bam! So there's Lion King internet sales broken down by funds contributed to. And I can see that about $31,000 of my Lion King sales came from internet buyers who were also constituents who contributed to the annual fund. That is data discovery. And I can go as deep as I need to. I can just keep drilling through, or I can back up and dive into any other dimension. Maybe I want to know about postal codes or campaigns or really just about anything. In other words, you get to go exploring wherever you think you might find something interesting in your data. So that's just a small preview of our new BI initiative and some of the tools we'll be working with. Much, much more to come on this in the near future. And speaking of the future, what else is ahead for us? We've got some pretty big news to leave you with. When we started on the Next Generation project, there were 3 legs to the stool we wanted to build. First was the new services architecture, designed to transform Tessitura into an enterprise platform that could power multiple applications and extend itself into all areas of your organization. Second was a set of major new functionality that's become known as our features roadmap. And this included such items as the new constituent model, pricing overhaul and rules, communication preferences, plans, our moves management software for fundraisers, our tablet sales app, Turbo, a complete rewrite of NSCAN, and lots of other new big features. And finally, a plan to redesign the Tessitura application user interface and experience with an eye towards building that in web technology. Well, the first 2 legs of that stool have been largely accomplished. We redesigned the way our software works internally to be much more modern, flexible, able to be more easily interact with other areas of your business and other technologies. We've accomplished much of what we initially set out to do in terms of new features. Of course, I know that job never ends. We'll always be doing this. But now it's time to talk seriously about that third goal of ours. A look at our main application, visual design and architecture. So today I want to announce here that we're going to be starting a project to redesign the Tessitura user interface with the goal of turning it into a browser-based application. Whew, this is obviously going to be a big project. We've already taken some first steps, however, and as I mentioned earlier, building resource scheduling as a web application was really important to us. We wanted to try an experiment to see if we could replace parts of what would have been Power Builder code with a web application running inside the Tessitura Windows application. And doing that successfully means that we have a whole toolbox with which to do the same thing to other parts of the application, piece by piece. And it's not just a matter of rewriting what we have now in a new technology. We want to bring some top-notch design resources to bear on this as well. Recognizing that modern software is designed from the ground up to be easy to use and intuitive, even complex software such as ours. So while we're not setting out to change the functionality of Tessitura, we are looking to completely overhaul the look and feel of the application. We also want our software to be easier to deploy, and a web application will be a huge step towards that. So we don't know yet how long this will take or what pieces we'll start with, but expect to hear much, much more about this over the next year. Suffice to say, we know this is a huge undertaking. We also know how important it is for the future of Tessitura. Finally, a plug for 2 upcoming mini keynote sessions devoted to Tessitura technology. Ron Wilson, our Chief Technology Officer, and I will be doing a session on Wednesday afternoon where we'll dive even deeper into all our current and future technology plans. And we'll do that sort of in the context of our development methodology. So if you're interested at all in learning how we build and design our software, feel free to join us on Wednesday afternoon. And then on Thursday morning, John Jakovich will present a comprehensive look at what we're planning with the Business Intelligence Initiative. And we plan to have time for questions at both of those sessions. Well, that's what I wanted to share with you today. Let me pause for a breath here and turn this over to my colleague and technology partner, Kristin Darrow, our Senior Vice President of Digital.
Hi, guys. It's always tough to follow Chuck. That's quite a setup. Tessitura technology is built to serve your customers in every single interaction that you have, through traditional channels like mail, phone, and walk-up, to providing excellent digital experiences on any device they have within reach. So I think it's interesting that recent headlines in my reading list sort of popped up with this buzzword, omnichannel customer experience. This is in the past couple of weeks. This is a jargony word, obviously, but it has some solid footing. It seems to be denoting this thing that businesses are recognizing the need to dissolve silos between customer interaction channels and to unify the customer experience. So this latest buzzword has a heck of a lot to do with what Tessitura's founding principles were back in 2001 and still are. And some of those are here in the guise of omnichannel. First, customers want to choose how they interact with you and not the other way around. They want to pick up the phone if they want to pick up the phone. They want to pick up their mobile device if they want to. They want to talk to you in person. And that leads to number 2 here. Data and systems should support unified customer interactions. Unified data and systems are the foundation of great customer service and consistent response. And number 3, digital should be a connector to the physical world. You know, at first, digital was a novelty, right? It was a novelty to have a website. And then years later, it was a destination. I'm going online to do some shopping. I'm going online to do some research. And now fast forward to today, where I really think of digital more as like a permeable mesh that lays over our physical world. And we're sort of used to popping back and forth between that digital device in our hands and the physical world. In fact, we don't really think about it anymore. We just do it. So building great digital experiences, in my opinion, is really about building, yes, helpful and unobtrusive interfaces that should materialize when they're needed and should dissolve and recede the minute that they're not. They should obviously support your broader customer service program, and most importantly, they should help bring the visitor and bridge the visitor more deeply into the art and culture that they're there to see. So all the technology that you're hearing about here on this stage today, and all the technology you'll hear about all week on various stages around this building, it's all about one unified source of data, one platform, Tessitura, serving multiple communication channels seamlessly. So we heard from Chuck about the evolution with the Tessitura platform. Let's talk a little bit about the digital aspects of your customer service program and hopefully how Tessitura Web products help fit into that. There are 2 Tessitura Web products, TN Express Web and TN Mobile Plus. TN Express Web is the network's e-commerce platform. It's all about getting the transaction to happen, from educating your customers to your organization to helping them plan their experience to facilitating and doing that all-important transaction to getting them to your door. TN Mobile Plus is the network's mobile app platform. It's the in-pocket concierge as people walk around your building, as they sit down for a concert. It's all about before, during, and after being on site, and it becomes the ultimate sort of pinpointed content deliverer. These tools cover both ends of the customer interaction with you. If TN Express Web is about getting people to your door, TN Mobile Plus sort of takes it from there. It's a virtuous cycle. So let's dive into TN Express Web here first. Quick sort of primer, about 2/3 of the network, 2/3 of you guys are using TN Express Web now for your websites, which is just staggering and humbling to me. But for those of you who don't know about TN Express Web yet, it's essentially a product that fits stealthily into your existing website, and it takes care of the Tessitura integration for e-commerce. Its mission in life is all about bringing easy, smart, Tessitura-driven transactions to every device in a way that's easy for your organization to maintain and implement. And it's flexible enough that you can implement it in a way that looks and feels very much like a custom website. So it's Tessitura-powered e-commerce. It's Tessitura-driven ticket, admission sales, package sales, memberships, donations, class registrations, account management, on and on. And we're evolving it in step with the Tessitura development team so the platform really evolves in tandem. It fits into your existing website and it matches your existing website. So you don't have to rebuild your existing website. It fits into that, and it looks seamless. It should look seamless to the customer. We've all been on those websites where you're sort of clicking around, and then you realize at some point that the interface really has changed, and you realize you've been shunted off into another application, and we don't like that. We want people to feel like they're really immersed in your brand and your experience, and it's just a consistent no drop-off zone, basically. It follows security and compliance standards. You know, we take care of evolving TNU forward when new compliance standards hit, when new accessibility standards hit, when there's a change to the API, when new functionality like resource scheduling rolls out, that kind of thing. It's ever-evolving service, and we host it and maintain it for you. Works out of the box. It's a huge amount of functionality, and it should look like your brand and your website, right? So no designer or developer needed. But, optional, you can open the secret hatches of TNU and use it as a platform because it really is built for that. That means if you want to build some student registration, camp registration interface of your dreams that TNU doesn't do, you can still do that. Go off and code it. Use one of our talented web ecosystem vendors, many of whom are sitting in this room. Go off and do it, and then use TNU as your shopping cart. Don't reinvent the wheel on the shopping cart. Hook it in. So it really is all about using it as a platform if you want to. But again, that's an optional part. Go to one of the TNU sessions this week. There's many TNU sessions if you want to tune in and learn more. But I want to switch directions here now. The culmination of many past TLCC talks for me personally sort of hangs in this moment. You know, I often talk about Tessitura technology, and usually it's somewhat like, okay, I'm going to talk about the current release, maybe talk about the upcoming release, and then I'm going to squint my eyes and look off in the future and talk about maybe the horizon line a little bit. But today, I get to do one thing. One thing, and that's talk about the coming release for TN Express Web. And I think you'll agree when you hear about the coming release that the horizon line sort of takes care of itself. This year, we're undertaking the largest redesign and recoding of the TN Express Web platform in its 7-year history, and not coincidentally calling it version 7. It's a huge project, and it will emerge a modern, device-agnostic, easy-to-design powerhouse of an e-commerce application. Now, we're still very much in development with version 7, but we're making great progress, and so I'm really excited today to talk a little bit about what we're doing. The first tenet of version 7 is that it will beautifully handle all screen sizes, mobile, tablet, desktop. We're building TNU as a responsive application, and many of you guys know what that means. What you're seeing here on screen is TNU version 7 in code. It has sort of TNU version 7 with its clothes off, so to speak. It's the bare bones, unbranded TNU, and it's got all the Tessitura smarts baked in. It's the new HTML and style sheet code structures of version 7 that allow it to flex based on screen size. And it's a result of not just a ton of development effort by my talented team, it's also the result of a lot of design effort. You might be looking at that and saying, design, really? I get it. And we all know that there's two kinds of design, right? There's functional design, and then there's sort of beautiful design. Form and function, artistic design, functional design. This is obviously all about functional design at this base layer. And functional design, when you're talking about that for the web, it's all about where things fall on the page, what pages flow from one to the next, what the customer experience is. And what you're seeing on screen is literally the result of 7 years of accumulated knowledge and how organizations like yours are using e-commerce, how organizations like yours are using TNU. It's a culmination of thousands of user support tickets and implementation questions. It's hundreds and hundreds of conversations with you telling us and teaching us what works and what you want to see different in the application. And most recently, it's the result of dozens of user interviews led by our user experience designer, Heather Reynolds, with you guys. To back all that research, we've also recently implemented a new layer of Google Analytics code across the platform that will help us nip and tuck and adjust things about the application to make it more and more usable. So adjusting button placement on the page slightly, that kind of thing. You guys are familiar with this. You notice this out on Amazon or BBC or these large sites, right? Where the site looks really the same from day to day, but the button is slightly different, or it's moved up, or the form fields are slightly realigned, or whatever. They're adapting the sites based on the tons of data and usability input. And we're thinking more and more like this starting with version 7. It's something that none of us could really pull off on our own, but using the volume of 286 organizations' web transactions flowing through one platform, we're starting to take that information and run with it. Just one example of how hooking on to the TNU train is all about sort of leveraging and continually improving application. And the Tessitura team essentially becomes your adjunct staff of designers, developers, and data analysts. The second big tenet of version 7, more flexible design, a new approach to branding and designing the TNU site that puts more power into the hands of the designer and developer out there. So TNU looks like your brand, right? Out of the box. But you've taught us some things, and you've taught us that some organizations, and you know who you are, want to really design TNU, like you would really design a custom website. So from day one, we gave you access to the code that controls the presentation layer of TNU, and more of you picked it up and used it than we thought you would. And we were really impressed by what we saw you doing, making TNU jump through the sort of hoops of your creative vision. And you taught us where we could make it easier for you to do that. So here, with version 7 of TNU, we're releasing fresh and crisp and efficient HTML code structures to not just get the job done of helping us evolve that functional design that I talked about, that base layer of TNU, but to also put more power into the hands of the designer and developer to really adjust how it looks and feels. Now, I know not all of us are developers in the room, and so this visage of TNU may not be the most inspiring angle. Let me just put it this way. If this is the code, the crisp and new code in version 7, this was the code before. Chris Shelley has a slightly different version of that joke. So what does this all mean? It means that under the hood, version 7, it's different. It's easier to design if you wish. Let's take a look at some examples. Unbranded TNU. Let's call this all brains and no beauty. Brains and beauty. This is TNU version 7 with form applied, laid over the scaffolding of all that functional design I talked about. Or this. Or this. The best part to me is not the visual transformation of this, it's how the visual transformation happens. TNU version 7 is built using this ubiquitous coding framework called Bootstrap. It's a tool set developed by Twitter, and it's literally used by millions of websites around the world. These are 2 off-the-shelf, pre-built templates that we got for free on one of the many Bootstrap design theme shops out there on the web. We did some minor tweaks, about 30 minutes of work, and here it is on version 7. And this is a springboard place. You can start with these templates and design from there. If this sounds like jargon or if it sounds obscure, just Google Bootstrap design themes and you'll get 7 million websites to peruse full of pre-built themes that you can lay on top of TNU now. So it's pervasive technology. And so our innovation here was to build something utterly dead obvious, and that is to take how the world builds and maintains modern websites and to use that ourselves. But what if 7 million places to go look at hundreds of themes apiece is too limiting for you? That's all right, we got you covered. I understand some of you. I get it. You can still create from scratch your own template. That's cool. Here's an example of one that our designer whipped up for us, and here it is on version 7 as well. All you got to do is have somebody who knows HTML, CSS, and can follow our really awesome new documentation, upload it to TNU, and you're off and running. And speaking of awesome new documentation, this is our new interactive style guide. You can see you can click in here, get information about every single component of the TNU interface, open up the code, drag it down to your editor, do some work. So to sum up, the power of designing TNU with version 7, much advanced and much easier for the designer developer. And if you're just sort of tuning out there, just know this. Starting with version 7, if you feel like there's a design constraint with TNU, talk to us because it's likely solvable, and we're happy to help. So when is all this version 7 stuff hitting your customer's device of choice? Later this year. Our schedule has us delivering version 7 by the end of 2016. There's a roadmap session later this week. Please stop by if this has piqued your interest. We'd love to have your input on this as we move forward. But before I leave version 7, there's one more thing that I want to talk about here. I talk about how flexible TNU is now from the design standpoint, but what about the behavior standpoint? In fact, most TNU sites out there are using the TNU's customization hooks to affect behavior. So it's already incredibly flexible from a behavior standpoint. Maybe it's adding a parking upsell during the checkout process, or maybe it's adding a detailed student information gathering form for class enrollment. Given how often you guys are pulling that customization lever, we're revisiting how we're doing customizations overall for TNU and hoping to make it a little bit easier to do. So during the version 7 lifecycle, we'll be building what we're calling a plugin framework, essentially making it easier to create these kinds of behavioral customizations to TNU, and as the name implies, make it possible for you to actually create something for your organization and then share it with the community if you wish. Don't have to, but you could. And somebody else could take that code and plug it into their TNU site. Just one more way that we're thinking more and more like a platform. This won't be out with 7.0, but it's going to be out sometime during the version 7 lifecycle. So that's TN Express Web. Let's move on to TN Mobile Plus here. And this is also an application I have a tremendous amount of passion about. It's done a lot in recent releases to make it a vital tool for leveraging the mobile device for your patrons and visitors. Now, I talked about that whole sort of permeable mesh that lays over our physical world with digital, and how your customers and visitors and concert goers, everybody in your building and your venue will want to pull out their mobile device, whether you want them to or not. They will want to do that. It's all about maximizing the mobile device on site now. And Mobile Plus is a great way to bridge that divide and help make that possible. The mobile phone becomes the visitor's self-paced, interactive, personalized concert guide, personalized logistical guide to parking and discounts in restaurants, personalized museum tour guide. The key thing here is that as a native application, not mobile web, but native application, TN Mobile Plus can do things that your mobile optimized website cannot do. Things like this first thing here, geofencing. That needs the hardware's location awareness in order to do that. Geofencing is essentially a way to build a virtual perimeter around your venue, and then when a phone enabled with TN Mobile Plus crosses that perimeter, it can send customized and personalized content that's relevant right then on the spot. Push notification engine. It uses the phone's native notification and alert ability to give content at the right time at the right place. Mobile tickets and membership cards. Mobile optimized video for live stream, video, photos. Social media sharing, it's directly tied into social media so that it makes the experience of being on site shareable with those that aren't. And yes, even with TNU moving to responsive in version 7, it still does mobile transactions. We may change how we do it over time, but it's still going to be a bridge to purchase where it's useful. So let's talk briefly about what I mean when I say that Mobile Plus as a native application does stuff that your mobile enhanced or mobile optimized website will never do. Imagine you have tickets to tonight's concert at the Performing Arts Center downtown, and you've got Mobile Plus that loaded up on your phone for the Performing Arts Center. It doesn't even have to be active, it's just on the phone installed. And you're driving down to the downtown area, you get within range of the venue, and content gets pushed to your phone. Maybe it's program notes or video interviews with the cast, or maybe it's information, in this case, about the restaurant offerings that evening. And then as you approach the doors, your phone lets you know again it's time to tap, and you can be scanned in with your ticket or membership card at the door. That's what I mean about location awareness and content delivery here with geofences in this particular case. But coming out later this year, that whole concept gets even more pinpointed with beacon integration. So beacons are these small bits of hardware that are fairly inexpensive and can be placed multiple places in a physical space, and they emit a signal. And similar to geofences, when a phone loaded with Mobile Plus comes within range of that little beacon device, it can send content. Talk about pinpointed content delivery, literally right place and right time. So if you're walking down toward the Impressionist painting wing and you pass a beacon, your phone will know to send you information about the history of Impressionist painting. This is coming later this year, and you can tell I sort of geek out about this location stuff, and I could keep going. I got to wrap this up, though, because Tessitura's resource scheduling feature is telling me I need to wrap it up, and I know Chuck's looking at his watch. So in closing, we've been delighted to be here today to talk with you about what Tessitura's technology evolution is all about. And with your input and guidance, we craft the tools that you guys use in your vital work of providing the world's access to art and culture. We're busy making our applications support more devices, be better designed, be more nimble to hopefully serve more business needs and customer needs, and be that unified source of customer data that I was talking about at the beginning. Every year you inspire us by what you're doing with our platform, and that inspiration is what fuels us as we evolve the technology platform forward and keep pushing. This is an incredible week. What we hear from you guys in sessions and discussions in the hallways, it's likely what you're going to hear back from us next year from this stage as we carve the next notches in the Tessitura technology roadmap. So enjoy this week, learn and share in equal measure. You have things to teach us, and we'll be listening. Have a great TLCC 2016. Thanks for joining today. Thanks for the live stream. It's been a great pleasure and privilege to share with you today.